What if I told you that the smallest choices you make each day, what time you wake up, how you breathe, what you eat, how long you walk in the sunlight, the way you talk to yourself, are not just influencing how you feel, but actually changing how your DNA is read and expressed? That's not philosophy or self-help, that's biology. We now know that our behaviors, especially the small, consistent ones, can shape our gene expression, effectively altering who we are at the cellular level and determining how we heal, age, think, and feel. Our DNA, often misunderstood as a fixed blueprint, is more like a piano. Every person inherits the same instrument throughout their life, but how that instrument is played, what keys are struck, how often, how intensely, can vary dramatically based on the environment, lifestyle, and behavior. This is the science of epigenetics, the study of how external and internal factors influence the way genes are turned on or off. And just like a piano piece changes based on the musician's hands, your gene expression changes based on the habits and actions you repeat daily. To understand how this works, let's take a step back. Within every cell of your body is the same DNA. It's the complete code that defines your potential, your height, your eye color, your metabolic rate, your susceptibility to disease, your cognitive traits. But not every gene in every cell is turned on. In fact, that would be chaotic. The cells in your liver, for example, only express the genes necessary to be a liver cell. The rest of the DNA is silenced. That selective gene expression allows your body to specialize and function properly. What's fascinating is that the signals that determine which genes are expressed don't just come from the DNA itself. They come from proteins called transcription factors, and more broadly from chemical markers, called epigenetic marks, that attach to the DNA or to the histone proteins around which DNA is wrapped. These marks signal whether a gene should be read like an open book or locked away like a sealed vault. And here's where it gets truly mind-blowing. Many of these signals are influenced by what you do, what you eat, how you sleep, your stress levels, your physical activity, and even your social relationships. One of the clearest examples of this comes from studies on identical twins. They start life with the exact same genetic code, but as they age, especially if they live in different environments or adopt different lifestyles, their gene expression diverges. You can measure differences in their risk for disease, cognitive performance, and even physical appearance. Why? Because their epigenetic markers changed based on their life experiences. Let's bring it down to practical terms. If you consistently get good quality sleep, 7 to 9 hours per night, with sufficient deep and REM sleep, you are influencing the expression of genes related to immune function, inflammation, metabolism, and cognitive performance. Chronic sleep deprivation, on the other hand, upregulates genes associated with stress, fat storage, insulin resistance, and even cancer proliferation. That's not just about feeling tired, it's about turning on or off entire biological pathways that influence your long-term health. Consider stress, acute stress, like what you feel before a big performance or a tough conversation, can be beneficial. It sharpens the mind, increases focus, and mobilizes energy. But chronic stress does the opposite. When your body perceives danger for days, weeks, or months, it starts laying down epigenetic markers that suppress immune function, increase inflammation, and make your body more susceptible to disease. You literally change your biology by staying in a heightened state of stress for too long, and the kicker, even your thoughts, your perception of stress can influence this. Two people can experience the same external pressure, but the one who interprets it with more agency and less helplessness shows a different pattern of gene expression. Nutrition plays a major role too. Certain nutrients act as cofactors in the production of those epigenetic marks. For instance, folate, B vitamins, and choline all donate methyl groups that participate in DNA methylation, a key mechanism that silences or activates genes. Diets rich in whole foods, leafy greens, legumes, and omega-3s are associated with positive epigenetic outcomes. Ultra-processed foods, high-sugar diets, and nutrient-poor meals do the opposite. You're not just feeding your taste buds, you're feeding your gene expression machinery. Movement, even in small amounts, has profound effects as well. Regular physical activity increases the expression of genes that promote brain plasticity, such as BDNF brain-derived neurotrophic factor. This molecule helps you learn faster, retain information, and resist depression. Just walking briskly for 20 minutes a day can initiate these changes. You don't need to run marathons to impact your DNA. You just need consistency and movement. That's enough to begin rewriting the biological scripts within you. One of the most surprising findings in recent research is that light exposure, especially morning sunlight, regulates genes linked to circadian rhythm, mood, metabolism, and hormonal balance. By getting 10 to 20 minutes of morning sunlight in your eyes, without sunglasses, without windows in the way, you trigger cascades of dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol in patterns that align your internal clocks with the external world. That in turn influences when you feel hungry when you sleep and how your cells repair themselves overnight. Miss this simple action daily and you start to experience drift, your clocks go out of sync, and your gene expression follows suit. Let's talk about breath. Your breathing patterns modulate your autonomic nervous system. Slow, nasal, diaphragmatic breathing shifts the body into a parasympathetic state: rest, digest, and recover. This calms the mind, reduces inflammation, and lowers blood pressure. These aren't just momentary changes. With repetition, the body lays down long-term epigenetic markers that favor resilience and adaptability. The opposite is true for shallow, rapid mouth breathing. It signals danger, maintains chronic sympathetic tone, and reinforces stress-based gene expression. What about mindset? This is where science and psychology intersect beautifully. Positive social interactions and a sense of purpose are not just emotionally beneficial. They shape gene expression too. Studies show that people who report strong social bonds and a sense of meaning in life have lower expression of pro-inflammatory genes and higher expression of genes associated with antiviral responses. On the other hand, chronic loneliness or perceived social isolation has been linked to a very specific pro-inflammatory gene expression profile. In other words, being around people you care about and contributing to something bigger than yourself rewires your molecular biology. This brings us to perhaps the most powerful and underestimated aspect of all: repetition of small actions. Your nervous system and your genetic expression respond best not to occasional big efforts, but to frequent, repeated, consistent behaviors. Think of this like laying down tracks in a field. The first time you walk across the grass, it bends slightly, but if you walk the same path every day, a trail forms. Eventually, it becomes permanent. Your genes respond the same way. A single night of good sleep won't rewire your system, but sleeping well 30 nights in a row, that will change the way genes related to inflammation, immunity, and neuroplasticity behave. Small actions are powerful because they're sustainable. Big dramatic changes may be exciting at first, but they rarely last. The nervous system prefers rhythms, and the epigenome, the collection of all your gene expression markers, does too. It's rhythmic, cyclical, adaptive. It wants to know what it can rely on. If you give it consistency, it rewards you with health and resilience. If you give it chaos, it responds in kind, with dysregulation and disorder. Even your emotional habits count. Practicing gratitude, journaling positive experiences, and cultivating compassion all create shifts in the brain's default mode network and reduce activation of genes associated with chronic stress and inflammation. This isn't wishful thinking, it's measurable, and the best part is that the entry cost is low. 2 minutes of reflection 3 times a week can shift your biology over time. When you put all this together, a stunning picture emerges. The body is not fixed, the mind is not static, and your DNA is not destiny. You are not just a product of your genes, you are an active participant in the orchestration of their expression. Each morning you wake up, you're given a choice to reinforce patterns that heal, energize, and strengthen you, or to fall back into habits that limit, degrade, and damage. It's not about guilt or perfection. It's about understanding the power you hold, and yes, it's hard to believe that something as simple as getting sunlight, breathing intentionally, walking daily, or being kind could rewire your molecular biology. But it does, and the science is unequivocal. Small actions repeated consistently change your biology from the inside out. They dictate how your genes perform, how your brain adapts, how your body resists disease, and how your mind experiences life. You are not a victim of your genetic code. You are the conductor of the symphony it plays, and every small choice is a note in that symphony, some discordant, some harmonious. The future version of you, the one with greater clarity, health, resilience, and purpose, is built not by one grand act, but by thousands of tiny ones, repeated, aligned, intentional, so the next time you think your actions don't matter, remember, biology disagrees. Every breath, every thought, every step, every bite, it all counts. The code within you is listening. The only question is, what story do you want it to tell? The influence of small actions on gene expression extends even deeper when we examine the interaction between behavior and neural circuitry. Every time you engage in a behavior, particularly one that is repeated over time, it triggers a cascade of neural activity that ultimately communicates with the nucleus of your cells. Neurons are not isolated from the rest of the body. They are part of an intricate dialogue between brain and body. And this dialogue determines which genes are upregulated or downregulated. Think about what that means. The thoughts you think and the actions you take are literally sending chemical messages that can activate or suppress your genetic potential. Now, not all genes are available to be turned on at all times. Many are locked behind epigenetic barriers, waiting for the right combination of signals to emerge. When you engage in a new behavior, let's say you start meditating regularly, initially the effect might be subtle. You may feel slightly calmer or sleep a little better, but what's happening under the surface is much more profound. Certain genes involved in stress regulation, like those influencing cortisol metabolism, inflammation, and neural repair, start to shift. The machinery in your cells begins to detect a new pattern. The transcription factors and methylation pathways involved in interpreting your DNA begin adapting to the change in stimulus, and with time, the changes become more stable, more durable. That's epigenetic plasticity in action. One area where this is particularly striking is in the domain of trauma and recovery. Individuals who have endured chronic stress or early life adversity often show specific patterns of gene expression, especially related to the hypothalamic, pituitary, adrenal HPA axis, immune response, and emotional regulation. But these patterns, while real and measurable, are not necessarily permanent. With the right interventions, whether that's therapy, mindfulness, supportive relationships, or even structured breathing, those gene expression profiles can shift. The system can recalibrate. The story written in their biology can be edited and even rewritten entirely. Even something as basic as posture and movement can exert effects on your gene expression profile. When you hold your body in a state of expansion, shoulders back, chest open, spine aligned, you not only send signals to your brain about confidence and safety, but also influence how your body metabolizes energy and produces stress hormones. These changes, in turn, affect the expression of genes involved in energy production, glucose metabolism, and cellular repair. Contrast that with a posture of collapse, head down, shoulders slumped, shallow breathing. That posture reinforces a state of threat and diminishes your body's adaptive capacity. Again, these are micro decisions, but with macro consequences. The human body evolved under conditions where behaviors and environments were tightly linked to survival. Our genetic expression machinery is exquisitely sensitive to cues from the outside world. So when you wake up and get natural sunlight into your eyes, move your body, breathe deeply, and nourish yourself with whole foods, you're giving your biology the signals it evolved to expect. And in return, it optimizes gene expression for growth, repair, cognition, and vitality. When those signals are absent, when the environment is artificial, the diet is poor, the social structure is fragmented, and the behaviors are chaotic, the system compensates by shifting gene expression in ways that promote inflammation, fat storage, anxiety, and disease. Not because your body is broken, but because it's adapting to the wrong signals. And this is why consistency is so powerful. The brain and body don't respond well to sporadic, unpredictable change. They crave rhythm and pattern. Every major biological system, your endocrine function, immune response, digestive rhythm, sleep-wake cycle, runs on a clock. That clock is set and reset by what you do each day, especially during the first and last few hours. This is why morning routines and evening wind-down rituals are not just psychological tools, they are biological levers. When you stabilize your circadian rhythm through light, food timing, activity, and rest, you synchronize your internal systems. That synchronization is reflected directly in the gene expression profiles of your organs and tissues. There's also an important layer to this that involves identity. When you take small, consistent actions that reinforce a certain identity, say, being a calm person, a strong person, a disciplined person, your biology begins to reflect that. Neural pathways are strengthened. Hormonal patterns begin to favor that trait. Gene expression shifts to support the behaviors that match the identity you're reinforcing. This is why affirmations and visualization work best when they're paired with action. The action tells the body, this is real, and once the body believes it, the DNA starts acting accordingly. This idea that small behaviors influence your identity and vice versa is not just metaphorical. Studies in behavioral epigenetics show that lifestyle-induced epigenetic changes can be passed down at least for a few generations. This means the way you manage your stress, your nutrition, your sleep, and your social interactions may not only influence your own health trajectory, but that of your children and even grandchildren. Your behaviors today become molecular memories tomorrow, and those memories shape future generations in ways we are only beginning to understand. Of course, this power cuts both ways. Harmful behaviors, even small ones, when repeated over time, can lead to negative epigenetic changes. A few nights of poor sleep won't destroy your health, but chronic, fragmented, insufficient sleep, especially when combined with elevated stress and poor nutrition, creates an internal environment that favors the expression of disease-related genes. Over time, this leads to systemic inflammation, hormonal imbalance, cognitive decline, and reduced resilience. But the inverse is also true. Improvements don't need to be dramatic to be effective. Adding 10 minutes of morning light exposure, drinking water before coffee, walking after meals, and getting off screens 30 minutes before bed, each of these simple actions, when done consistently, reshapes your biology. Another key factor is novelty. The human nervous system is designed to seek and respond to new stimuli. Engaging in new learning, exposing yourself to unfamiliar but safe environments, and trying new physical challenges activate a range of molecular pathways involved in neuroplasticity, memory formation, and resilience. These experiences promote beneficial gene expression in areas like the hippocampus, the brain's center for learning and memory, and can help protect against age-related decline. Again, the behavior can be small, reading one new page a day, learning a few new words, trying a new route on your walk. What matters is not the size of the challenge, but its frequency and your engagement with it. It's also critical to understand the role of sleep in consolidating these changes. Sleep is not just about rest, it's about integration. During deep sleep, the brain and body scan the day's activity and decide which gene expression patterns to reinforce. It's a time of hormonal balance, immune surveillance, and memory consolidation. If you engage in healthy behaviors during the day, but don't protect your sleep at night, the full benefit is not realized. The system needs rest to encode the new patterns and begin expressing them at the genetic level. Hydration, too, is not just about keeping the body cool or preventing fatigue. Water is a critical solvent in nearly every cellular process, including those that involve gene transcription and protein synthesis. Even mild dehydration can alter your hormonal state, impairing cognition and increasing stress hormone levels, which in turn influences epigenetic expression. Again, small action, drink enough water, simple, consistent biological impact. The cumulative effect of these micro-decisions forms what can be called a personal epigenetic environment, a terrain that either supports health and growth or undermines it. Every action you take, no matter how small, contributes to this terrain. If you think of your gene expression like a garden, then each behavior is either sunlight, water, and nourishment, or its shade, drought, and toxin. The choice is yours, and the effects compound over time. Social connection is one of the most underestimated drivers of gene expression. We are social creatures, and our biology reflects that. Supportive social interactions buffer stress responses, reduce the expression of pro-inflammatory genes, and promote longevity-related genes. On the other hand, chronic social isolation or unresolved interpersonal conflict activates genetic pathways associated with threat, inflammation, and disease. Simply talking to someone you trust, laughing with a friend, or spending quality time with a loved one has real, measurable biological consequences. You're not just bonding, you're building molecular resilience. And then there's the power of intention. When behaviors are done with conscious awareness and purpose, they have a deeper impact on neural circuitry. Mindful walking, for example, engages different parts of the brain and nervous system than walking while distracted. The intention infuses the action with a signal of safety, presence, and engagement, and that shifts the way the body interprets the action, leading to different biochemical responses and gene expression profiles. The same walk, done with awareness versus done with distraction, leads to different biological outcomes. What this all points to is an empowering truth. You are not static. Your brain, your body, and your DNA are in constant dialogue with your environment, your choices, and your mindset. The power to shape that dialogue lies in your hands, not in grand gestures, but in the micro decisions you make every single day. When you treat your biology like an intelligent, adaptive system, one that listens carefully to the cues you provide, you start to realize that transformation is not about trying harder. It's about aligning your actions with the outcomes you desire, and then repeating those actions until they become your new baseline. So, the real question is this: what kind of signals are you sending your biology each day? Are your actions telling your cells to thrive, repair, and grow? Or are they reinforcing a state of stress, depletion, and decay? The answer lies not in theory, but in behavior. And behavior, ultimately, is the bridge between the life you have and the life you're capable of creating. In conclusion, the smallest choices we make each day, how we move, breathe, eat, rest, think, and connect, are not inconsequential. They are biological instructions, molecular messages that travel deep into our cells and determine how our genes express themselves. This means that change is not only possible, it is encoded in your very biology. You don't have to wait for massive external shifts to alter the trajectory of your health, your cognition, or your emotional well-being. You simply need to recognize the immense power of small, repeated actions, because each one, done consistently and with intention, is a vote for the version of you that is stronger, more adaptive, and more aligned with your potential. The science is clear. Your DNA is not your destiny, but your behaviors, they just might be.